Hello my creative friends, I hope you're doing great today. I'm feeling good because I've been doing a little bit of decluttering in the house, and let me tell you, that always makes me feel good. I'm sure you know what I mean. I was going through my books on the bookshelf and realizing that I've been keeping some for so long, some from uni, history and poetry and that sort of thing, and in the hope that I maybe will read them again one day, but I haven't. Let's face it. Let's be honest. They're still there, just gathering dust. So maybe it's time that I use them for art instead of throwing them away. So I had to throw some away because they were just not unusable. They were just not usable for anything. But I have kept a few, such as some classics like this, Moliere. Some very French famous writers and playwrights that it breaks my heart a little bit to throw them away. So I thought it'd be great to reuse them because who's not after book pages after all. Sometimes you go through friends books and charity shops and that sort of thing, and then you realize you actually have some of those at home for free anyway, so why not use them? So I'm going to keep a few of those classics just for that purpose. But I also found this book that I've kept from uni that I didn't want to throw away, and that's a poems from Shakespeare in French and English, and I think it's time to just put it to better use and not leave it to gather dust on my shelf. So I'm going to use it, and the good thing about it is that if you have a quick look, the font is already a cursive font, which is great. It will look lovely in backgrounds, I think. And one other thing, aside from those classics, is that I found an old comic book. I don't know if you guys know of Asterix. Surely he must have made his way all around the world by now because he's so famous. Asterix is the little guy here with Obelix, the big guy, and the little dog. In French is called Idefix, but I think he's got another name. I can't remember on the top of my head what it's called in English, but they're basically adapted depending on your language. So anyway, I thought, again, something I've been keeping for ages, and I mean, if you look through the pages, they're really colorful and bright and fun, and I thought, why not use those in a background, of a page spread? That might be fun. So what do you say? We just try it out, rip up some pages into pieces and use them as a collage for the background of an art journal, and then see how it goes. And maybe on your bookshelf you will find that you do have some old comic books, or maybe your kids have some in their stash as well that they're never going to read again. So why not reuse them? Let's just do it and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, we'll just paint all over it and no one will ever know. All right, let's do this. Alright, here I am at my studio table, and I've got my Moleskine art journal here and my Asterix comic book. So I'm just going to flip through and just have a look at what we've got here. I guess all pages are about the same anyway. I feel a little bit guilty about ripping a page out of here, but at the same time I feel guilty just leaving this book, just to gather dust on my shelves anyway, so I might as well use it and repurpose it. So I'm just flipping through and looking at the colors, and they're all pretty similar really. So I'm just going to grab the first page and tear that away. The paper feels pretty good, so I think it'll be nice to use it as an art background page. And I'm going to take off some of the white borders because I want to stick to the colorful areas instead. And I'm just going to rip off a few pieces, just random shapes that I can glue later on with some gel medium. And again, removing some of the white parts because I won't need that. I want most of the color. And then I'm just going to tear this whole page apart into small pieces. And if it's not enough later on, then I'll grab a few more. But anyway, let's just keep going and glue that down. Okay, that's my background complete. As you can see, I've put pieces of the comic books pretty much all over the whole background. I've left some little bits uncovered, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be completely full. And I think it looks pretty cool. I don't know what you think, but I like it. I think it's pretty fun, and you know, it makes a very abstract background because all the pieces are overlapping slightly. Some are in different directions, so it doesn't, you know, really look like there's one element that's jumping out more than the other. So the next step is that I'm going to add some paint on there, just like I normally do most of my pages. And because I'm using these comic book pages because they're colorful and fun. So obviously I don't want to cover it with dark colors. I still want to keep that element of color in there. So I'm going to pick some of the colors from the background, like the blues, the lime greens, maybe the yellow, maybe some of the orange as well. Actually, probably some of the orange first, and then just spread it with my fingers and then see what happens. Okay, then that's my background covered in paint. So I pretty much picked the colors that were already in the background. So that's the yellow lime green, a darker sort of forest green, not really forest because this one's quite vibrant actually, a bit of orange, and that way everything feels unified and I haven't lost too much of the colors of the actual comic book pages. I also took care not to cover and put too much paint on the comic book pages because I wanted to make sure that I can still see some of the details and the shapes without having them, you know, stand out too much, obviously, because this is going to be a background. So now you could leave it like that for now, which is I'm going to do, and leave it to dry and come back to it later on and do something on the top, or just enjoy it as it is. Why not? You know, nothing, no one says you have to put some stuff on top. It's up to you. It's your journal, remember? So I'm gonna let that dry and then see what happens next. Okay, so while I was drying my pages, I had an idea of what I could do next. And basically, because the background is made of comic book pages, I thought it'd be fun to put a big bubble in the middle, or maybe to the side a little bit, with a quote inside. That way the bubble will echo the fact that we have comic book pages, which obviously have bubbles of text throughout. And I found a quote as well from Batman. Of course, it had to be a comic book quote that will fit right in there and that I actually like. And it says, "It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me," which is a very powerful quote. What great life advice Batman gives us today, right? So first of all, I'm going to, like I said, I don't want to cover up too much of the background and lose the detail, but I'm going to add a little bit of gold in the background. Of course, you know me, I love gold. I like putting it everywhere, but in subtle doses, obviously. So I'm just putting a little bit on my finger and then adding it here and there. It's not covering the colors very much, but it will add a little bit of shine and depth without covering up too much of the background, basically. So, and I can use it to add tiny subtle color effects to any areas that may not be covered with paint, maybe like this white bit here. So that covers it up nicely. And if you have any texture created maybe by bubbles from collaging the background papers, which is fine, then the gold will pick up that texture a little bit and add even more interest. So don't freak out if you have any air bubbles, or if your paper has sort of is rippling a little bit. It's all good. Okay, so I don't want to add too much and overdo it. So just a little bit here and there, quite subtle. I'll just tilt it a little bit to give you an idea. I'm not sure if you can see it too much in this light, but it is shiny. It's cool. And I'm going to dry this off, and then I'll start on my bubble quote. Okay, so I've just traced a basic outline of my bubble. And as you know, in comic books, they always have a white background and black writing and a black border. So I'm going to cover this area in white gesso, just to make it quite opaque, so the text will be readable on top. I played with the placement of my wording for a little while until I was happy with it, and I wanted to emphasize the what I do, so that's why I made it bigger and in the center, because I think that's the most important part of this quote. Now I'm going to trace all the words with a black marker pen and do the outline as well, erase my pencil lines when everything is dry, and see how it's looking. And by the way, all the supplies are listed on the blog post, and you'll find the link in the description box. So if you have any questions, just go there first. Just note that I don't answer art questions about techniques and products used on YouTube, but everything's on the blog post. And you can also join my private Facebook group if you have any queries at all, or if you create your own page or art based on any of my video tutorials or my e-course or book. I'd love to see what you create. So all the links will be in the description box below. Okay, that's my quote done. I'm going to use a slightly thinner marker just to get into the spine here. And I'm really happy with this so far, but you know, I like to personalize things my way. So when one of my little trademark things is to add little doodly lines or little scallops everywhere, so I'm just going to add them, but just very subtle, so you know, it's so the pages are me, but it still retains the comic book feel that I've created so far. So let's just doodle all the way around quickly. Doesn't need to be too perfect. As you can see, even the white gesso of the background of the bubble is not completely flat and perfect. And I did that on purpose. I could have added another layer, of course, to make it really opaque and neat. But because the background is already kind of a little bit messy and not neat, definitely by any means, I thought it would be weird just to have something that's, you know, stood out too much, being too perfect. So that's why I only did one layer, and you can still vaguely see through some a little bit of color. So that's it for that. And I might do another layer on top of this area here because the ink appears a little bit lighter than the rest. So I'm just going to grab my pen again, shake it really well, just add a little bit more of a black. Now all I've got left to do is to add a little bit of a black border just to frame this quote really nicely. So I'm just going to use my black gelato for that. Okay, that is it. It's completed now. I'm really excited about it. I really love it, and I think that's pretty original. I haven't seen anyone else do this before, so I hope that it's just making some ideas pop in your head of what you can possibly do. And the black border frames it really nicely, I think. And yeah, it's simple, but I just love it. You've got enough going on in the background that you don't need something too busy on the top. So the black and white really stands out on top of this colorful background, and I've got a bit of a gold shine happening in there that's very subtle. So really happy with it. So I'll take some more photos so you can see the finished pages properly, and then you'll be able to see them on the blog post. And then let me know if you feel inspired, and if you create anything similar to this, then definitely send me some pictures so I can see what you've done.